Today we're going to continue our hypothetical TV adaptation for the Dresden Files. We're on to season 5, and this is the one that I'm honestly most excited about, which surprised me.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Belated Binge. I'm Zach, former radio host and lifelong sports fan discovering the magic of urban fantasy. Spoiler warning today for all things the Dresden Files through Battleground. Please subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube. As you know, we are working our way through a hypothetical TV adaptation for the Dresden Files based off of the rumors that are out there that Jim Butcher, the author of the series, is in deep conversations and negotiations for a revitalized adaptation attempt of the Dresden Files. And the plan is to start with the story spanning 3 books of the war against the Red Court and the relationship with Susan Rodriguez and that portion of the books. And I decided that for our fun, I would take that concept and try to see how I could adapt the entire Dresden Files series. It started with the Red Court being season 1, and then we jumped into the Knights of the Cross for season 2. For season 3, we had the White Court of Vampires. Season 4, it was Harry versus the White Council and the Black Council. And now for season 5, we are into what I think it's become my favorite part of the Dresden Files story, and it did not start out that way by any stretch of the imagination. It was the part that I might have been least excited about when I first started reading this series or experiencing this series through audiobooks, and it's become my favorite. I'm talking about the Winter Fae. Season 5 is all about the Winter Mantles. As we've established throughout the previous seasons, that these books, why I think that they hit home the most for people is the character development and the character relationships. There's actually not even that much like romantic relationship. I'm just talking about the development of characters and, how they interact with each other and their relationships to each other. It's written incredibly well in this book series, and I think that's part of the reason that this book series is so incredibly successful. And so that's not really going to change in the TV adaptation. I think for the TV adaptation, they need to build it around those characters so that that can be what holds the story up, and then all of the supernatural chaos happens around the characters. So for season 5, and what is ultimately the final season of the show. I know that I have said in past episodes that I came up with 6 seasons, and that's still technically true, but once we get to when we get later in this episode, I'll explain that a little bit more and it'll make a little bit more sense. But for all intents and purposes at this very moment, season 5 is going to be it. This is going to be the series finale season, and it's going to be all about the Fae. Harry's relationships with Elaine, with Murph, with Mollie, and the whole Fae story arc to this point is all going to be contained here in season 5. And so it's going to span quite a few books. It's going to start with Summer Night. We're going to hit part of Proven Guilty. Then we will get into Cold Days, and then Peace Talks and Battleground. That's going to be our main where our main plot lines are coming from. As with the previous episodes, we've got 10 fictional, hypothetical episodes to do this adaptation, and it's going to start in Summer Night, and it's basically going to be this entire book, right? We need to introduce the Fae, which is going to be in episode 1. We will introduce Mab. We will introduce Harry's godmother. We will get a sneak peek into the Mollie subplot and how she, at this point in time, is dabbling in magic. And we'll probably get to about the point where Harry fights the troll, and that'll probably be what culminates the first episode of this particular season. Then in episode 2, we will intro Elaine. We will get the some of the altercations with the changelings that Harry meets during all of this. We will get him going to Undertown to confront Maeve and meet the current Winter Knight. We will get to the part where he finds Elaine just completely wrecked in his car, and he will get her to the I can't remember exactly what they did. So it was at like the top of a hotel, but I don't like Summer had had they like commandeered the top of the building, or had they turned it into some kind of like portal to like however that worked. We're gonna get Elaine there, and we're going to introduce the Summer Lady, and that is going to be episode 2. So I think that we're kind of churning right through that particular book, and then in the third episode of the season, we're going to get the final battle um, from that book from Summer Night, where we have to we've got to go through a lot of stuff, to be honest with you. We've got to get through, kind of like see where Elaine's loyalties are going to be. She has to sort of turn on Harry, but also give him a breadcrumb so that he can survive. Uh, we have to get basically to the point where Harry kills the Summer Lady, and Lily has to become the new Summer Lady, and Fix has to become the new Summer Knight, and we'll have all of that happening in that particular episode. So we've really got like we only have 10 episodes, and by episode 3, we've had a major battle, and we've had a major like changing of the guards and a major shift in the world of the Fae in the Summer Court, and we've got a probably very pissed off Titania at Harry at the end of just the third episode. So then we are going to head into episode 4, obviously, because that's how numbers work and that's how counting goes. And it's going to come from Proven Guilty. And this is going to be the whole Mollie plot line from Proven Guilty. We would have set up in the like first episode that Mollie is essentially dabbling in magic. Like we can't um I've mentioned this in all of the episodes up to this point because of the way that they've talked about doing the Red Court and having that be like a self-contained story that covers and spans multiple books that are several books apart. In order to do that story, we have to kind of continue that formula for these other stories to be self-contained, and that means a lot of jumping around in the book timeline. And so the way that we're kind of getting through that is we're just kind of altering the timing of how certain characters are introduced, and when. And this is kind of we've seen in previous seasons Mollie growing up as a kid, so we have a level of familiarity with her, but it's not until this season that we see her start to, I guess, grow up and be doing magic. And so we'll get that happening, and we'll have the whole SplatterCon stuff kind of condensed down to a small portion of the episode for TV, obviously. But we need it for the phobophage, and so that we can have Mollie taken by the phobophage. I think that what we do with that is um, kind of just have them using her as a beacon, and maybe just skip out on kind of that whole um, I don't wanna say that we skip out on the whole part with, like, the boyfriend and the friend and how Molly tried to stop them from doing drugs, but maybe we show that in kinda, like, flashbacky type stuff as opposed to having devoting a lot of screen time to that whole setup and how Molly got here. And I think maybe we just kinda skip the part where uh, Harry is sitting in the floor of a hotel room in a circle and um, doing that for hours. Maybe we don't have to do all of that. But I think we have I think we have plenty that we can cherry pick from the books for part of the episode to still be streamlined and make sense, essentially so that we can get to the part where Mollie has been taken by the phobophage and taken to Arctis Tor, so that we can have Harry team up with the Summer Fae and go get her back, because that becomes a really big piece of the Fae story arc. Essentially, is him going into Arctis Tor and getting Molly out, and so we do that for episode 4. That leaves us with 6 episodes to go, and things are going to get very, very, very wintry. And before we get into those, I'm going to do the shameless plug. Patreon.com/belated binge. Check that out for bonus content that I've posted on there. You also get early access to all of the stuff that I share. I actually just brought back the behind the mic bonus episodes for Patreon recently as well. So I would appreciate it if you would go ahead and check that out. Patreon.com/belated binge. So now that we have Harry saving Molly from Arctis Tor, I think the big wrinkle that we need to address and handle is that the circumstances surrounding him taking on the mantle of the Winter Knight. So in the actual book series, obviously he does this in changes in order to save his daughter, and then he dies, and then a whole book goes by, and then we figure out he's, oh, big shock, still alive, because lots of books left. But we can't really do that because changes happened in season 1 of TV. So we need another way to make that happen. And so I think what we actually would have done is, instead of having him take on the Winter Mantle in order to save his daughter, he accepts the Winter Mantle for Winter Knight in order to save Molly. And so now we can jump into the next episode coming from Cold Days and pretty much keep everything from Cold Days as pretty much as it is, because it's all still in play. The circumstances have just been tweaked a little bit of why he took on the Winter Knight in the first place. So in the 5th episode of the season, we have him being nursed back to health because he has been mortally wounded saving Molly and has taken on the mantle of Winter Knight, and he gets to be trained and all of that stuff, along with Mab's other daughter, not named Maeve. And I think that during this time we show him being brought back, I guess you could say, in doing his training and doing his physical therapy, if you will. And I think you can kind of montage a little bit in the episode showing some of Molly being trained by his godmother, the Lananshi. And I think that's a cool little parallel to be drawing, that his whole existence has changed, and she's being trained kind of alongside of him without him realizing that that's what's actually happening. And I think that this episode ends with Mab giving him the order to kill Maeve. And that'll be our intrigue to lead into the next episode, which will be spent investigating Maeve. And this is where we can have you can have Bob the Skull telling us how you actually kill immortals. You can get to the conflict at Demon Reach, and you can see you get to, I think you get through Lily and Fix essentially fighting Harry. And I think that you get to the point before Murphy kills Maeve, but I think you maybe end this episode with Maeve killing Lily, but you don't show the fallout of that. I think that you end it with just kapow, and that's it. And then you jump to the next episode in the season, and it starts with Maeve killing Lily. And you get the passing of the Summer Lady Mantle happening there. I think that this episode, you have a lot of dialogue, and I think you have a lot of character stuff, and I think that you have a lot of I think you show a lot in, um, maybe almost in, like, flashbacks, basically to give us context of, like, Mab's relationship to, her daughters, and ultimately get to the point where Maeve is killed and the, Winter Lady mantle passes to Mollie. And so if you don't think that that's enough, confrontation, if you don't think that's enough, fighting essentially, then maybe you adjust the where the previous episode ends, to be a little further ahead so that you can jump into some conflict before you get to, the passing of the lady mantles, if you will. I don't have a super strong opinion as to exactly where that happens, but essentially you've broken the Battle of Demon Reach ending of the book Cold Days into 2 TV episodes, and you culminate it with the, Lady Mantles being passed and the 2, Lady Fae being killed. And that gets you into, the what's going to come from Peace Talks and Battleground, and we've got 3 episodes left in the season to do it with, and this is going to be a slight shift, like we've had to do in previous episodes where, because Peace Talks and Battleground, it's like everybody from all of the different factions coming together into one hodgepodge of chaos. We've had to just kind of adjust how that is set up for, each of the standalone conflicts, if you will. So with this, I think that what you do is you essentially have I think you have Molly's short story Cold Case, and you take a slight, adjustment to what the dinner is. So if you remember in Cold Days, there was a dinner, and that's actually where Harry got the instruction from Mab to kill Maeve. I think you just tweak that, earlier. You give him that order not at the dinner so that you can have the dinner here take the place of the dinner that was happening at Marcone's from, Peace Talks. But, the way that you kind of explain this, if you will, is I think you have that dinner be about introducing Molly as the new Winter Lady to the rest of the Winter Court. And I think that kind of works out. And then you have it, um, infiltrated, and you have the conflict with the last Titan basically wrecking Mab, and that's how you end the episode. That leaves you with basically a, kind of like a I guess you could say like a two-part finale that comes from Battleground. You have Battle Part One, and that's where you have like Mab and Molly and the Winter Banner happening, and they're kind of like fighting through, the city. And this is the episode where Murph dies, and that's the emotional blow that we get hit because, Murph has been like the one constant throughout like all of these seasons that's been by Dresden's side the whole time, in and out of all of these conflicts. And for some, she's probably taken on a little bit more of a role than she may have had in the books, because of characters that we hadn't introduced and things like that, perhaps. So I think that this kind of becomes the Murphy, uh, send off episode, and in that emotional blow right before the actual like series finale, which is, basically, you have like a Titania coming down and fighting the Titan, and you have, um, Mab, fighting the Titan uh in the actual like battle scenes, and then you have, the Titan ultimately, banished and imprisoned by Harry once she's significantly beaten and battered down, and you end everything with, Harry and Molly showing up at Michael's house to have dinner, and we kind of get this like calm, things are going to be okay ending to everything. And that essentially ends our series. Or it ends our series for the content that we have through Battleground. At this point in time, hopefully, more books have come out and we have more stuff that can be adapted for a later season. And that's it. You could stop it there. Um, and I think I would. I think that would be a really strong, like 5 season TV show adapting the Dresden Files. You've pretty much covered just about everything in the book series in those 5 seasons. Really, the only things that have been left out are some of the very, like, some of the early stuff, some of the PI heavy stuff has been kind of left on the cutting room floor. You miss the ghost story book for the most part, because Harry, I don't think you have Harry die at the end of season 1 and then come back and then talk about the knights. I don't know. Maybe if you wanna do that, that's one thing that I think that you can do a little bit of the way that I've laid these seasons out so far, is I think that while I've ordered them like this for a reason, I think you can move them around, and I think things still kind of work out. But I kind of thought that it was most important to kind of introduce the major relationships for Harry earlier on in their season, which is why I had like the Knights be season 2 because of his relationship with Michael being so important, and then the White Court being season 3 because of his relationship to Thomas being so important. And then I think, 4 and 5 you can kind of, play with if you want to, but and maybe that's a good idea. Maybe you do the Winter Night stuff, and then have the and then have him basically go up against the council. The reason I flipped him, truthfully, is because I think there's so much of the council conflict for Harry that starts and happens well before he ever takes up the Winter Night mantle. That just sort of pushes things over the edge a little bit in the trust department, or quite frankly, gives the Merlin an excuse to get others on board with mistrusting Harry that otherwise would have trusted him. I'm looking at you, Carlos. But yeah, I think you could play with the orders of things if you wanted to. And this isn't necessarily the way that I would attack adapting this TV series if they showed up and offered me the job to do it. But because of the decision that they seem to be making about how they want to do the Red Court stuff, kind of as a standalone, that was what I was going with. But like I said too, I do have an idea for what could be, I guess, a 6th season, but I think of more as almost like a standalone. Oops, that knocking my mic around here. Almost as like a standalone mini series, if you will, like an offshoot side season idea that I will share with you, I guess, in the next in the next episode that we talk about this. But I do think that it doesn't fall within like the timeline of this 5 season arc. I think that this wraps things up for this 5 seasons pretty well. And I would be interested to hear what you think, and what would be the thing that you were most excited about seeing adapted to TV from the Dresden Files. Let me know that in the comment section if you are watching this on YouTube, and obviously subscribe while you're there. Please like the video and do all of those things because the algorithm likes that stuff, and I would like to please the algorithm. It rules us from well, it rules our lives as content creators. So please help me please the algorithm. If you are listening on one of your whatever your favorite podcast app is, please leave a 5-star review. And remember, life is short. Go ahead and drive that Blue Beetle. Stay in your basement apartment and read a good book. and fuego the whole damn building if anybody ever has a problem with that. Just make sure that Bob is able to make it out safe and that you have worked with your local fart elves to keep just enough power going so that you can catch the next episode of Belated Binge.